All right, we'll go ahead and call the meeting to order. If we could all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, please.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, first up is going to be oath of office. So if the three board members, one at a time, looks like Laura, you're up first. You can go up to the podium with Megan, and she will administer the oath of office to each of you.
Okay. Do you solemnly swear that you will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of Ohio, and that you will faithfully and impartially discharge your duties as member of the Board of Education of Fremont City School District, Sandusky County, Ohio, to the best of your ability and in accordance with the laws now in effect and hereafter to be enacted during your continuance in said office and until your successor is elected and qualified?
Yes, I do.
Okay. Right there. Thank you.
All right.
Okay.
Sarah?
Oh. Do you solemnly swear that you will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of Ohio, and that you will faithfully and impartially discharge your duties as a member of the Board of Education of the Fremont City School District, Sandusky County, Ohio, to the best of your ability and in accordance with the laws now in effect and hereafter to be enacted during your continuance in said office and until your successor is elected and qualified?
I do.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
All right, Laura. You can sign right there. Give you a pen.
I think she's in person.
Thank you. Do you solemnly swear that you will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of Ohio, and that you will faithfully and impartially discharge your duties as a member of the Board of Education of the Fremont City School District, Sandusky County, Ohio, to the best of your ability and in accordance with the laws now in effect and hereafter to be enacted during your continuance in said office and until your successor is elected and qualified?
I do.
Great. Congratulations. You can sign. Thank you.
How about a congratulations? Welcome.
All right, so we can officially now, roll call, please.
Mrs. Bloom? Here. Ms. Lehman?
Here.
Ms. Lewis?
Here.
Mr. Nally?
Here.
Mr. Price?
Here. And before we move on, welcome and congratulations to our two new board members and for Sarah being reelected. So look forward to working with all three of you. So be fun.
Thank you.
All right, so going into our organizational meeting, we open it up first for nominations for president for this next upcoming, or this fiscal year, or this calendar year, sorry, not fiscal. So I'm opening it up to anyone who would like to nominate.
I nominate Mr. Tom Price. Can we say that?
You sure can.
Well done.
Any other nominations? No one?
You're doing
All
a
right.
great job.
Wow.
So let's see, the way we have to do this officially, Could I get a motion to close the nominations for president?
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Nally. Could I have a second?
Second.
Second by Mrs. Bloom. Any discussion on that?
But
Roll call, please.
Mr. Nally,
yes.
Mrs. Bloom,
Yes.
Ms. Lehman,
Yes.
Ms. Lewis,
Yes.
Mr. Price.
Yes. So the motion or the nominations are closed for the president. There's really no reason. Do we still have to officially vote
We probably should, just for the record.
just to be on the safe side,
Yep.
even though there's one? Okay.
Yep.
All right. I'm just going to go right down the line on our agenda. Mrs. Bloom,
Tom Price.
Miss Lehman,
Tom Price.
Miss Lewis,
Tom Price.
Mr. Nally,
Tom Price.
Mr. Price. I'll abstain. All right. So oath of office for the president.
Yes, you do.
Okay. Do you solemnly swear that you will support the Constitution of the United States, the Constitution of the State of Ohio, and that you will fully and impartially discharge your duties as president of the Board of Education of the Fremont City School District, Sandusky County, Ohio, to the best of your ability and in accordance with the laws now in effect and hereafter to be enacted during your continuance in said office and until your successor is elected and qualified?
I do.
Thank you, sir. If you would like to. Yes, you have to sign.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Moving on. Now we open it up to nominations for vice president.
I'd like to nominate Sarah Lewis.
Are there any other nominations? All right. So again, can I have a motion to close the nominations for vice president, please?
So moved.
Motion by Mrs. Bloom. Could I have a second?
Second.
Second by Miss Lehman. Roll call, please.
Mrs. Bloom,
Yes.
Ms. Lehman,
Yes.
Ms. Lewis,
Abstain.
Mr. Nally,
Yes.
Mr. Price.
Yes. All right. So vote on the vice presidency. Again, I'll just go right down the line. Mrs. Bloom,
Sarah.
Miss Lehman,
Sarah.
Miss Lewis,
Abstain.
Mr. Nally,
Sarah.
Mr. Price, Sarah. All right, congratulations, Sarah. Now oath of office for the vice president.
Yeah. Okay. Do you solemnly swear that you will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of Ohio, and that you will faithfully and impartially discharge your duties as Vice President of the Board of Education of the Fremont City School District, Sandusky County, Ohio, to the best of your ability and in accordance with the laws now in effect and hereafter to be enacted during your continuance in said office and until your successor is elected and qualified?
I do.
Congratulations.
Thank
Sorry,
you.
Mr. Price, I didn't do that with you. Three for five tonight.
Yeah.
Oh.
So those are all taken care of. Now, the rest of it is, you go through it just like a
Yeah, just
regular
like-
agenda,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
All right, so we'll move on for the rest of our organizational meeting. Detweiler?
Yes, sir. Thank you very much, Mr. Price, and congratulations to our new members and new officers. It's gonna be good. Let's go, right? All right, so some of our other business we have to take care of. This is that organizational meeting for a reason. We kind of get ourselves set for the year. So starting out with item one, we're fixing our time and place, 6 o'clock here at the middle school.
and then we move as we need to. So you can anticipate that. Item 2 is the service fund. That will free up some budget for board activities, board payment, board events, just all things appropriate to run a board. Now, item 3 is a legislative liaison appointment. Just for the sake of the community, we had talked about this. Actually, I had sent out a survey in an email asking if anybody had priorities, and actually it worked quite well that everyone sort of picked something that they liked, and it seemed everybody was okay with that. So appreciate that. So for legislative liaison, Mr. Nally, if it's appropriate, and you okay to accept that?
Yes.
Great, thank you very much. Our annual conference delegate, this is the person that gets to go to Columbus every year and kind of vote on all things school board association related. Sarah, you'd like to keep that position?
Yes, please.
Thank you. For the alternate, in case Sarah couldn't fulfill or someone else needs to go, Lori, are you willing to do that?
Yes.
Super, thank you very much. Student Achievement Liaison, Mr. Price, are you willing to fill that?
Yes.
Okay, super. Learning and Liberty, Lori, you've served diligently on that already. Would you like to continue?
Yes.
Lori, yeah, not Laura. I better keep careful on that, don't I? Right, that'll catch me for sure. Now, item 8 is the dues for OSBA. I think it's the best $8,500 we could spend. It's just a tremendous resource for all things legal and procedural and training and everything else. So with your approval tonight, we'll rejoin with the Ohio School Board Association. The Treasurers Committee, we do need audit records committee. Megan informed me this week, actually last week, that the president of the board has to be one member, and we need one more. And Laura, you've agreed to do that one, right? Super. Thank you very much for that. And Mr. Price will be serving as president. Item 10 then are really my committees, the policy, curriculum, finance, and health and wellness. Policy committee, Tom, you've served on that in the past. Would like to continue, right?
Yes.
Thank you very much. Sarah, we've got you down for the Curriculum Quality Control Council that you've been
Yes.
on previously, right? Thank you for that. Don, with your background and history of your things you've done, you help us on the Finance Committee.
Yes.
Thank you, sir. And Laura, in your background as well, Health and Wellness, if you're willing to serve.
Yes.
Thank you so much. The BAC, just you kind of know what that it used to be, a district-led committee, but we've gone now with the North Point ESC manages our regional business advisory council. We have local representation, but it's a very effective council and has actually won some recognition in the state for the work that we've done. So that's what number 11 is. Item 12 allows me to represent anything grant-related, kind of gives me that authority under your direction. Item 13 is an agreement to do state and federal programs. Denise would be all about that, wouldn't you, Denise? There's a lot of help for kids in those programs. And it gives us a lot of flexibility for training and just some things that we can't do out of the general fund. So very good money well spent. Item 14 allows me to be the purchasing agent for the district or my designee. Item 15 is the public records training. That is allowing Megan the privilege of becoming our records retention specialist. Item 16, authorization of investment for funds. Once again, let's Megan do what she believes is the most prudent with our money. Item 17, available monies. Let's see, okay, this allows us to work with the auditor for our tax revenue, right?
Yeah.
All right. Petty cash authorization, $7,000, that is for the year. I had a member ask about where that all goes, and we clarified significant portion of that is athletics for their gate startup cash. And that represents an entire year for all of those organizations. We do have some cash in the buildings,
Yep.
a little bit here and there. So it seems a little high, but it's not all in one place and it's not all at one time. So
And just to give a little bit more clarification on that, currently we only have about $2,300 out in petty cash. This is just up to
yeah, not to
7,000.
exceed.
Yeah.
Super. Authorization to issue warrants. The treasurer is to authorize warrants in payment of bills and contractual obligations. Authorization to pay mileage. Authorize superintendent to hire staff. This one I especially appreciate. It allows me in between board meetings, if I really have a situation where I can, for example, get a driver on the road that's ready to roll and passed all their credentials and is, background checked and ready to roll. I don't have to wait for the next meeting, but we'll bring that to you as soon as possible so that you may act upon that. So I appreciate that privilege. Thank you very much. It helps the whole thing run a lot smoother. Item 22, we'll approve Bricker and Graydon as our primary legal counsel. And then item 23 is Brenza McIntyre and Seed, if we would, and this, once again, it's just if we would choose to do any tax representation. They are specializing in that. So those are our organizational items for tonight.
Okay. Can I get a motion to approve items 1 through 23, please?
So moved.
Motion by Mrs. Bloom. Could I have a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Lewis. Any discussion on any of those items? All right, roll call, please.
Mrs. Bloom,
Yes.
Ms. Lewis,
Yes.
Ms. Lehman,
Yes.
Mr. Nally,
Yes.
Mr. Price.
Yes, motion's approved.
All right, item 24 is the tax budget hearing. Anything, Megan, on this?
Just real quick, just to give you guys a little bit of background on it. This is something we have to do every year. It's not really a huge importance. Sure, the county auditor thinks otherwise. But it's basically just taking our financial information and submitting it to the auditor to say, yes, we need the property tax allocations that come to us for our bonds and general fund and that kind of thing. We won't be taking any board action. I know there's a roll call underneath. We will be doing that in the regular meeting, but this is just kind of the place where I get to present it and say, here it is. It was at your seat when you sat down tonight. And like I said, it's really just what our different millages are for our different levies and our financial activity, what our actual was last year, what our projected is for this year, and what our projected is for next year. And those numbers all come from our 5-year forecast for the general fund, and then the bond retirement fund and the permanent improvement. It's just our best estimate on those. And then it also has in there our debt schedule for our different bonds that we have out there for real estate taxes. So if there's any questions.
We'll be taking a vote. We have to approve it during our regular meeting, not the organizational meeting. So that'll come up in the fiscal matters later on in the regular agenda for the regular meeting. So.
Yep.
Okay. So we can, that's it for the organizational meeting. We can now move into our regular meeting. We still need to start it off.
I don't know if we're in session, if we need to do anything, but let's do the roll call. I think that'd be
For the roll
important.
call.
Yeah.
Okay. So starting off with our regular meeting, roll call, please.
Mrs. Bloom,
Yeah, right here.
Ms. Lehman,
Here.
Ms. Lewis,
Here.
Mr. Nally,
Here.
Mr. Price.
Here. Can I get a motion to approve the minutes for our regular meeting held December 4th, 2023, please?
So moved.
Motion by Ms. Lewis. Could I have a second?
Second.
Second by Mrs. Bloom. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Ms. Lewis,
Yes.
Ms. Bloom,
Yes.
Ms. Lehman,
Yes.
Mr. Nally,
Yes.
Mr. Price.
Yes, motion's approved. Legislative report.
Don, you've had 12 minutes. Do you have a report for us tonight?
I'll be digging into the various issues that are going on in the state and bringing that information back, hopefully at each meeting. And right now, just gathering information, and we'll continue to share that.
Okay.
Thanks.
Sounds good. Walk-on items. We have in front of us a piece of paper. We have 2 walk-on items. They're both under fiscal matters, so they'll come up at the last 2 items, items 13 and 14. So it worked out well that they were added on then. So we have those in front of us, so we'll get to those later on. Moving on to the community section, if there's the hearing of the public, if there's anyone that would like to address the board, you can come up to the podium, just state your name and address for records purposes and ask the board anything. Nope. All right. Moving on to superintendent's report.
Thank you very much, Mr. Price. Once again, welcome everyone. It's really exciting to get started. Just a couple things, kind of update you. We've been a little while since we've met. It's been a very good break, and hope you had a nice time off with your families and so forth. But just an update with the public relations firm that we've hired. Remember, we just approved like a 2-month trial period with them to sort of do a deep dive into a couple of things. They have completed the social media review, and they actually were very complimentary of what we're getting out, how often we're getting it out. The content is very, very good, and they were very, very happy with that. Our next look is now at our website. So now they're taking a look at the website, kind of just seeing if there's things we can do to improve and see, what we can do with that. They also sent me a first draft of a survey that I'm going to give out to some stakeholders to talk about, okay, what we're doing well, what we're not doing well, how do you get your information? Do you trust City Schools is doing a good job? Do you trust the administration of Fremont City Schools? It's not going to be a real broad survey, but we'll try to get enough stakeholders to get a sense of how things are going. And that will allow them as a PR firm to start knowing, okay, what can we attack? Basically, what needs can we address? So, and then also, just so you know, we'll be in sort of a decision time on what to do with them on a regular monthly basis. Many of these firms are then with you the whole time, but you pay them so much a month to kind of be your partner. And that, we haven't done that yet, but that'll be the next thing I'll be bringing to you to see what I recommend we kind of do with them going forward. So an update on that.
If I could really quick.
Please.
Who or what in general kind of did they have in mind for stakeholders? Are they looking at parents? Are they looking at local businesses?
Yeah.
Are they looking at...
Yes. And actually, I had about 15 people, Denise, maybe in that initial meeting. I tried to cherry pick all of those organizations. So we already had an initial meeting where they came up to the district and talked to that group of stakeholders. So I will do them for sure. Then I want to try to reach out beyond that a little bit more and get a little broader view. So certainly the original committee that they spoke to, they want a little deeper dive as to maybe what they see as a perception of the school. So I had some parents and business leaders. I think who from the city? Oh, Bob Gross. Bob Gross joined us. So then I had a couple of principals, teachers. So yeah, that was the group I had before. So I would certainly include some board members on that very same thing, so we get you some feedback as well. So
Crystal ball in front of you with that last statement.
yes, ma'am. I wondered about that. Yeah, we'll certainly include you.
No, I think it's also important to reach out to the community. So I just wanted to make sure that
Absolutely.
we had some
Yes, ma'am. We
community
want
involvement.
some meaningful information. You bet.
Yes, thank you.
You bet. Safety Day. Last year, and I want to bring this up because I don't know kind of where we're going to go next. Last year, if you remember, we kept the students home for a day and had the state safety commission come in. We had all of our first responders there. We did a big meeting in the auditorium with the whole staff and talked about procedures and emergency responses. We delivered our safety buckets. Remember, we have buckets in every classroom now that have safety gear and tourniquets and just a lot of first aid kind of stuff. That all was rolled out. Then we went to each building and did what they call a bang demonstration, where they went around different places in the building, shot off blanks out of a gun so that teachers then could respond what it sounded like from different parts of the building. So it was a very well-received day. As a matter of fact, I think one of the most positive feedback from some professional development that we've had from our staff was that day. So the conversation right now is what's next. We're meeting with our principals this year for our semester roundtable with our principals. We meet with them after every quarter, and we'd like to kind of talk to them what's next. I've also had Mr. Bollinger, who's the representative from the Ohio School Safety Council, on the phone last week saying, what do you suggest? And he gave me some suggestions too. Maybe it's a reunification of students with their parents. It might be a more advanced rush into the building by police with EMS and set up a station with them. So we're trying to go to the next level with the safety. So I'll be coming to you with more about that. I want to talk to my administrators, kind of see what they believe needs are. More conversations with, I haven't talked to the sheriff yet. I talked to the police chief. So we're trying to just see where people want to go next. The guy from the Ohio School Safety Council was very complimentary of the day we had last year. He said you're way ahead of the curve with a lot of districts in having that kind of level of conversation. So I was flattered by that and proud of that. But we'd like to keep going. So that's coming up. We'll let you know what comes up with that.
Mr. Detweiler,
Yes, sir.
I would venture guess it's tough to kind of balance that with the safety aspect.
Absolutely.
With the impact on the children.
Absolutely.
And, obviously that's something.
We had that conversation today. If you have a child that's had trauma, you got to be awful careful how you drill that child. I mean, run that child through drills. Yes. You can go backwards in feelings of security. It's like all things safety. I've had this conversation with a lot of parents. You can make it really safe, but no one wants to come there, right? So it's a real balance. And I think if you mix in some kids with emotional issues maybe, or some mental health issues, and you start throwing things at an intruder as part of a drill, that can be just too much. So you're right, Don, that's a good point. We try to be very careful of that, and make sure. We had some adults who were shook up last year about the whole thing. And rightfully so. It's a horrible thing. Even as I started that meeting, we shouldn't be having this conversation,
Right.
but here we are. So, no, point well taken, and we will be certainly conscious of that.
Did we do a formal survey after the safety day?
Yes, I've got a big stack of papers from the staff and did a lot of follow-up with the principals after that.
So it might be well worth it
Sure.
when you meet with the principals to maybe revisit
Yeah,
some of that
for sure.
information.
Absolutely.
To see what might be worthwhile.
Thank you, Sarah. You're right. That's out of my head a little bit, but that's a great point. We had a lot of review sheets. Okay.
One other suggestion, only because it came up at a Vanguard board meeting. One of the board members had a child at a different district outside of the Vanguard Sentinel district, but they had an issue where, and I forget where it was at, south of us, it would have been last fall, where there was a possible,
Yes.
do you remember?
They
what
heard a
district that
bang
was?
and thought it was a gun. And
Right. And
Yes.
so they did a full on go everything. And he said the biggest issue from a board member standpoint and at a parent standpoint was that unification process.
Yes, absolutely.
How does that information get to the parents? Because parents were coming in from everywhere.
Yeah.
And there wasn't a good plan in place as to.
How to manage that.
Right. And he said it became a mess, and you had parents just driving through and saying, I'm going to get my kid.
Yeah.
And
Making
to
things
figure
worse.
that out. Yeah. And he said nobody really, it was a good learning experience because nobody really knew.
Yeah, absolutely.
do, but-
That's that reunification thing is, like, for example, Ross High School goes to the fairgrounds. So, okay, if we're at the fairgrounds, we're trying to get kids either on a bus or in a car, how do we manage that? And I think even the guy from the High School Safety Council said it'd be one of those things, if you did it like every 3 years or so, those parents then would have a chance to understand what the procedure is at that building. And I've thought about it a lot, that at Atkinson, for example, kids would retreat to the rec center. Well, that's set up pretty well. That would be a pretty nice thing to do. But at Otis, where we're going to the Alliance Church, maybe a little tighter, and not as much space. And how do we get buses in and parents in and so forth? And I was talking to my directors about this, and we talked about, too, the idea that in a real incident, a lot of parents will come to get their child, which I would do the same. So how do you replicate that in a drill without asking parents to come pick up their kids, even though there's no emergency? I mean, and they would cooperate, but to what extent, and is it worth it? And then if you've got only a few kids left, then how do the buses manage that? And how do I get the buses organized so we know where the buses are? And I mean, so it's a tremendous task. And just us talking about it, I kind of go, oh. I start to get a little rattled.
Anxious,
But
yeah.
but the argument is maybe that's the reason to do the drill. I mean, because I could talk myself out of it because, boy, that's an awful lot of work, an awful lot of hassle. But, man, would that be helpful to have done something even close, maybe, if something would ever happen?
I mean, can you let the parents know that there's going to
absolutely.
be? Can you let them know there's going to be a drill, and so nobody's?
Absolutely.
I mean, how did you do the first one?
Well, we kept the kids home that day. So I just basically said,
Okay.
you kids stay home. We're doing an adult-only safety day.
Right.
So I'd have to communicate it very thoroughly, obviously, because there'd be people panicked when they saw all the activity too. And
honestly,
then
I mean, I'm
blows
going to
up.
suggest too, the first drill that you do with the kids at the school, let them know, hey, this is going to be going on Tuesday, whatever.
Sure.
We're going to do a walkthrough. We're going to walk through
No
this.
surprises.
We're going to
Right.
just, we're going to, so everybody stays calm. Maybe you'll have to do a walkthrough I wouldn't say every 3 years. I would do a walkthrough, like, even if it's quarterly or.
Well, we do. And that's part of we've already done a evacuation drill to go to the fairgrounds. So that's not new. The new part would be, how do I get these kids, when I can't get back to the building, how do we get these kids home?
Right.
Okay.
So that's the piece of that we're trying to look at, Laura, and you're right. So, and then thought, maybe let's just do one building at a time. And maybe that would at least be manageable. So we're on it. So I promise we're talking about it. Just what the best thing to do. So I'll keep you informed. And honestly, if you have any suggestions, we're certainly open to that. So. I think
All right.
that's where we're
Yeah,
headed.
you'll have to catch me up to speed because I just
Absolutely.
I don't know what you guys have done so far. But honestly,
You know what?
whatever's going on in the world,
Yeah.
it's
Absolutely.
real,
It's real.
real stuff.
Okay, just a couple of things. I did post the athletic advisor position that we talked about a couple meetings ago. Had no takers. I talked to Ms. Nye, and she was just ready for a break after a long season. So we're going to try again in the spring, maybe look for a different configuration and maybe a little more information so people know. We're a little late getting it out, so I'll let you know how that goes. We're still not giving up on that. So that's it for my report for this evening. Anybody any questions about anything in general?
I just appreciate, I know the board appreciates that as far as that athletic advisor.
Yeah.
I mean, like we had a meeting and then you guys took it and ran with it.
Yeah.
So I think we appreciate
Absolutely.
just the diligence and moving forward with that.
Certainly.
And that you all saw the value
Absolutely.
that brings to our student athletes.
Yep. Yeah, thank you very much. It helps that you signed my contract too, but that's a whole nother
Big deal,
Yeah, right. It's just there's that little thing there. Right? All right. If I may, Mr. Price, will proceed.
Yes.
All right. Item 1, approval donations, always a great part of the meeting. We have Chris Hurt, $35 for the food pantry. Kroger with $250 for the food pantry. Richard and Sandra Manitoffel, $500 cash for the PBIS at Ross. They've got some great prizes for kids over there. It's very exciting. Excuse me. And Courtney Warner, $42 with the candy canes. If I get a motion for those, please.
Okay. Can I get a motion to approve item 1, please?
So moved.
Motion by Mrs. Bloom. Could I have a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Nally. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Mrs. Bloom,
Yes.
Mr. Nally,
Yes.
Ms. Lehman,
Yes.
Ms. Levis,
Yes.
Mr. Price.
Motion's approved.
Thank you very much. Item 2 is a revised calendar, and I want to make sure that you're fully aware of what you're approving here. I've been sending you an email the last couple of weeks about an activity or a day that I'd like to keep kids home. That's right, kids, you can stay home one day. February 9th, as a communication day. It was spurred out of my curriculum department when we started implementing the demands of the new dyslexia law. This has been a huge conversation across the state as everyone's trying to figure out what has taken, I think, 4 years to actually come to fruition, because the first couple of years they realized, oh, that's too much, it's too much. So they've been changing it and tweaking it and working things around it to make it doable. And we're almost there, but it's still a lot. What our K-3 teachers have to do with the communication to parents based on reading scores and what are dyslexic tendencies, not diagnosed dyslexia. That's a very big difference. It's diagnosed dyslexia tendencies. So it's a conversation that has to be very, very well crafted, because if you're a parent of a young child and you hear that dyslexia word, it's going to cause a lot of panic and maybe mislabeling. And okay, we're not saying a child has dyslexia. If they're having trouble reading, they're not keeping up, we're going to do these interventions. But it's a part of that dyslexia law that passed a few years ago in the state. If you don't know the history, just real quick, there was a group of parents in a suburb in Columbus that had some kids that weren't, some of their own children who weren't successful, found out they were dyslexic, came back with a lawsuit, and it all kind of grew from that and is now a statewide thing. I'm not saying it's a bad thing, but sometimes, as you know, the state can do sometimes is smashing that with a sledgehammer, right? So that's an example of this, right? So I think we're going to, for this first run, I want to give those teachers who are already doing an awful lot of diagnostics and interventions and work to identify these kids and identify where they're behind and identify how to get them caught up, and then have those very real conversations with those parents about what's going on, the time to do that. So on February 9th, I'd like to dismiss students and have just teachers in the district K-12. Now, you may be asking about the other students. It's coming on the heels of already the student conferences for 6 through 12. So it's already in that same season. So the night before, we'll already be having secondary conferences with parents. So we'll invite teachers to extend that time, include more parents, because that's always a challenge, 6 through 12, is to get those parents in. So we'll extend that as well. So parent conferences. It's also the right time of year for retention conversations. If we have students that maybe are at risk of that, those are always tough conversations. State testing will be coming up, so we'll give a chance to communicate expectations to families about state testing. Student success plans, Little Giant Pathway. This is the great list that Mrs. Hers provided me with. We also have, I can't remember the number, maybe Denise remembers, there's a few kids there that are fully identified as in trouble for graduation, right? So there's always communication can happen between those families and high school counselors and high school teachers. So to give us dedicated time to make sure we're contacting those folks.
There's 12.
What's that?
12.
12. Thank you. You got that from her?
No,
Okay.
came up with that
I
amount.
had a girl. Hear how smart you are. Retention, OST prep, and Little Giant Pathway. So that's just some of the stuff that we think we can do. I think it's worthwhile. So with your approval tonight, what you're doing is approving a revised calendar. And on that revised calendar, February 9th will be shown as a teacher work day. So that's a long way to explain what's happening right there with number 2, okay? And then item 3 is the calendar for next year. The teachers voted about 2-1 for option B, which was the longer spring break. So those are those 2 items.
Can I get a motion to approve items 2 and 3, please?
So moved.
Motion by Ms. Lewis. Could I have a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Lehman. Any discussion?
Just that where we look at the option, we are looking at that option B calendar.
Yes, sir. I'm sorry. Yes, option B was the one that won the teachers' most votes. Yes, sir.
I'll toss in my voice a little bit since I have a wife who's a second grade teacher doing this dyslexia training.
Have you heard about it?
It is absolutely ridiculous. There isn't another word that I can.
That's kind of strong language, Mr. Price.
It's not that anyone wants anyone to be missed.
That's right.
If they're dyslexic, but to have a teacher, she has to. You test every single student. So you have a student who has straight A's is reading at a 5th grade level in 2nd grade, and they still have to be tested for dyslexia. The amount of time that they have to do. I mean, teachers are not teachers anymore. They're administrators. I mean, really, for all the paperwork that they have to do.
It's a lot.
And that is a huge burden. And I get it. But Columbus needs to look at this. And it's one of these things where's it going to be 5 years from now? Is it even going to be around? Because it all stemmed from a lawsuit. And I get it. But how about the state help out a little bit instead of just tossing everything at every little school district and saying, well, just deal with it. This is what you have to do. Just deal with it. Come on.
Yeah.
And they wonder why test score. We're spending more and more time on dyslexia training, so now the teacher isn't teaching. Well, we're not even teaching reading anymore because I'm testing for dyslexia. So then what? I don't know if they're dyslexic because we don't even get to reading anymore because we have all this other paperwork to do. It's crazy.
If I may too, on the day off thing, I said day off, the work day. Some of my comrades, other superintendents I've talked to about this, are actually hiring more staff to do some of these dyslexia tasks. I still believe that conversation should happen between that child's teacher and that parent. So instead of having maybe the title teacher or maybe hire a tutor to come in and do just that with children, I still think it'll be integrated so the teacher does it. But the problem is then the teacher has to do it, and it's more work, and it's just more that we've asked teachers to do. So I think this day is a step in the right direction to give our staff the time they need to do it properly. So.
Okay. All right. Roll call, please.
Ms. Lewis,
Yes.
Ms. Lehman,
Yes.
Mrs. Bloom,
Yes.
Mr. Nally,
Yes.
Mr. Price.
Yes, motion's approved.
Thank you very much. Item 4 tonight, ladies and gentlemen, is resignations. So we have Ms. Cahill is actually Terra State's new athletic director. We wish her well. She's done a great job with that program. We'll miss her terribly, but we do wish her well, and I think we will see a strong program there too because she just does things well. Jacqueline Tomlinson, teacher resignation. Sherry Beckley is a cook. Anita Poole is a cook, and James Sleek as a paraprofessional aide. James has been a great help for us to a long time. So we will miss these folks, but those are resignations for this evening. Some appointments then. Mackenzie Fry is a school nurse at Krogan. And then some certified staff substitute, Peyton Veers. Then Part B, some support staff subs. You have Cheryl Perthel, Stephanie Patterson, Richard Shearer, Eric Horsley. Turning the page to item 6. We have some supplemental contracts, and yes, spring is coming. Indoor track, softball, and Brent Parker as lead communication. Item 7, supplemental duties. We have there, as you go down the page, Alyssa Fields, Trey Grind, Aaron Hammer, and Luke Kingsborough for more supplemental positions. Item 8, teacher mentors, Debbie Bates and Elizabeth Swaysgood through Heidelberg University. They are sponsoring student teachers. Then item 9, School Board Recognition Month. I'd just like to take a moment and say to our newbies, good luck. No, I'm just kidding. What were you thinking? It's nothing worthwhile is easy, or else everyone would do it, right? And what you've taken on is a very tremendous task, and it's not for money or fame or friends. It's for students, and we recognize that. So thank you for all you have done and all you're about to do for the students of Fremont City Schools. As superintendent, I know what that job is, and I'm glad I'm on this side of it often. Thank you very much.
All right. Can I get a motion to approve items 4 through 9, please?
So moved.
Motion by Mrs. Bloom, sorry. Do I have a second?
Married.
Second.
Second by Ms. Lehman. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Mrs. Bloom,
Yes.
Ms. Lehman,
Yes.
Ms. Lewis,
Yes.
Mr. Nally,
Yes.
Mr. Price.
Yes, motion's approved.
Thank you very much. Our next item is resolution for National Mentoring Month. I checked with Mrs. Fry today, who's our mentoring person, and we have 35 mentors at Fremont Middle School and 36 mentors at Ross High School. Total of 71 kids who have one-on-one attention of an adult once a week, which I believe is one of the most effective ways we've ever had to make a difference in a child's life. She also mentioned that she believes, at least in her tenure, that's the most we've ever had. That's a peak. So very thankful for that. And I think you could probably honestly say that it's a time in the life of our students, and there's a lot of need for meaningful relationships with adults. A quick thank you to the United Way and the Family Children First Council for helping us pay for that. They're very generous, and they understand the impact that it's had. Also, you might notice there are 3 billboards around town celebrating Mentor Month. So if you've seen, I've seen 2 so far, but they're out there. So I want to make sure we get that thank. We couldn't do that without the help of United Way and our Family Children First Council. Thank you.
Can I get a motion to approve item 10, please?
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Nally. Could I have a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Lewis. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Nally,
Yes.
Ms. Lewis,
Yes.
Mrs. Bloom,
Yes.
Ms. Lehman,
Yes.
Mr. Price.
Yes, motion's approved.
All right, just because things can't get any crazier, here's item 11. This one, it took me a while to get my head around this a little bit too, but the last state budget included some huge changes in the state about how things are split up duty-wise. What was the Department of Education is now split into 2 departments. The Department of Education will now, and the state board will be managing all things staffing, discipline, licenses, those kinds of things. Then all things career and education will now be under the DEW, D-E-W, the Department of Education and Workforce. Well, you can imagine we have like 400 pages of policy. And in those policies, everything is basically divvied up to right now it all goes to the State Board of Education. What they're going to do with this resolution from you tonight is take all the things that should go into this pile and give it to the state board, and then take everything from this pile and give it to the new Department of Education and Workforce. So basically, they're going to divvy up our policies and what they apply to. For example, all of our policies about teacher evaluations, for example, would stay with the state board. Anything that might be education related is going to go into the Department of Education and Workforce. So they've got to go through, and with this resolution, they're going to do all of it for us, then push it back to us with a list, and then we'll simply have one motion to give to separate and sort all those policies into the right place so that they match the actual practice. Does that make any sense at all? Okay, I've been practicing that for a while because it takes a little bit to kind of get your head around that. So
Saying
that's
it in the
what
mirror.
item 11 is. Yeah, for sure. So that's 11. With your approval, it'll be our first step into recognizing the separation of those duties into both departments.
All right. Can I get a motion to approve item 11, please?
So moved.
Motion by Ms. Lewis. Could I have a second?
Second.
Second by Mrs. Bloom. Any discussion?
How is funding? Is that with,
Mr. Nally. Oh.
is that with
What time is it? Let's go.
Is that within our membership, or are we paying additional?
No, thank you. Good question. We subscribe to the Ohio School Board Association's policy guidelines. So quarterly, as needed, we get OSBA recommendations for policy changes. This would be part of that process. So it came the same way all of our other policy changes come. We get a FQF, there's some initials, PDQ. Policy daily, quarterly, or something. But anyway, the service we pay for the Ohio School Board Association to help us keep up to the latest legal changes is the same one they're using for this. So no more cost
That's
for this.
included in our membership
Correct.
fee.
Thank you. Yes. Yes.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Anything else on that? Okay. Roll call, please.
Ms. Lewis,
Yes.
Mrs. Bloom,
Yes.
Ms. Lehman,
Yes.
Mr. Nally,
Yes.
and Mr. Price.
Yes. Motion's approved. All right. Moving on to report of the treasurer.
Good evening. Congratulations to our new board members, and good to see Ms. Lewis back. As you will learn, I do not speak as long as Mr. Detweiler over here, but if you do have questions, please do not hesitate to ask. Right now in the finance department, we are finishing up some fiscal year-end activities, calendar year-end activities, dear Lord. In our world, we run July 1st to June 30th, but there are some things that we have to run January 1 to December 31st. So we're getting those processes all done and finished up. I know all the staff is probably so excited to get their W-2s soon and all that fun stuff. I do have 3 items tonight for approval. And our first one, item 12, this is an appropriation increase for, it's the description is athletic contracted services. This is totally for our payment of officials that come to our games. We've had a large increase in how much we've had to pay and some fees. So this money, we're hoping will last us the rest of the school year. We'd already budgeted for it, but it wasn't quite enough. So we have the cash to cover this, but this is so that we can use that cash to pay those officials that work hard and have to deal with a lot at those games. Item 13, which is a walk-on, that is the approval of the 24-25 tax budget. And then item 14 is to approve the attendance and compensate board members for new board member orientation.
Okay. Can I get a motion to approve items 12 through 14, please?
So moved.
Motion by Mrs. Bloom. Could I have a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Lehman. Any discussion on those 3 items?
I do have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
When it comes to paying the, what would you say?
Registration for those conferences?
Officials, like the
Oh,
officials.
the officials, I'm
yeah.
sorry. Yeah.
Are we, so this is just a question. Our district and other districts, are we kind of all in the same?
It goes by our league.
Yeah.
So as the league we're in, which is the NLL.
NLL.
NLL. They set how much they pay the officials, And then we all pay the same price. Like when it's at our games, we pay the official, or it's when it's home, that's when we would pay the officials that come to our game.
Okay.
Same
Like-
with, same with admission price too, by the way.
Yes.
The ticket prices are all league standard.
Mm-hmm.
So it's all
Okay.
decided on together. So this goes along with the same kind of thing.
Yep.
All righty. Just wondering.
Yep.
Okay.
All right.
Roll call, please.
Mrs. Bloom,
Yes.
Ms. Lehman,
Yes.
Ms. Lewis,
Yes.
Mr. Nally,
Yes.
Mr. Price.
Yes, motion's approved. All right, moving on to board member communications and information. So this is a time for any board member, you can express anything you want to talk about. If there's any information you'd like to request from John or Megan, if there's any questions about that, this is that time. So I usually just walk right down the line. So it used to be down there, so now I'm here. So I'll start down there and work my way up from last. So Don?
Just wanted to share that I'm looking forward to working on the board. I'm a very strong believer in our Fremont area community and believe that we have one of the best school systems around, or districts. In, you know, when you look at the commitment by our staff, our administration, our physical facilities, I think they're top notch. And I think, you know, when you put that together with all the other things that are going on in a positive way in our community, you know, when you look at our community college and the hospital, our city government, I just think there's a lot of really positive things going on. Not that we can't improve and address those. And I think a lot of that starts here with our schools. And I just wanted to kind of share that as a new board member and where I'm coming from. The other thing, I just want to thank the coaches, the mentors, and the volunteers, all of those people that give up their time and commitment to the youth in our community. So I think that is it tonight. Thank you.
Just to kind of echo a few things that Mr. Nally said, I'm very thankful for the opportunity to continue to serve our community as a board member. First year was great. Crazy enough to do it for another 4. So, and I look forward to working with everybody.
Honeymoon's over, right, Sarah?
Yeah, honeymoon is over. It just got real, right? Anytime we have any resignations from the district, it's kind of, you know, mixed emotions, especially when you have people who have served the district and our children and families for a long period of time. But just to kind of echo what you said about Coach Cahill, she's definitely been an asset to our volleyball team. Mr. Detweiler, you said it a few times, like she inherited a special program and made it special.
Absolutely.
So we will definitely miss her, but she's left a legacy that hopefully that can continue on with the athletes that she's assisted and taught, and that will continue that hard work ethic and team culture that she's created. So we wish her all the best. Thank you for all the donations, the volunteers of time, and just a little something about mentoring. That's something that's really, I guess, meaningful to me. I've made a career of working with children for the last million years. There is plenty of research to support that when children have positive, caring adults in their lives, that they are oftentimes more successful than their counterparts that don't have that type of support. You see a decrease in risk-producing behavior. You see a decrease in, you know, the drug or alcohol use, teen pregnancy, and those things that unfortunately become issues for our young adults. When you add a mentor to the lives of our children, you see an increase in positive pro-social behaviors. You see an increase in school attendance, which produces an increase in grades, and then the list just goes on and on and on. So I guess my shameless plug to the community is if you have ever felt a tug on your heart to become a mentor, we need you. Get in touch with Susan. I almost called her by her maiden name. Susan Fry at Ross High School. And just thank you to Susan, who's done an awesome job picking up where Vire left off in the program. And thank you to the United Way and Family and Children First for supporting that effort.
Sarah, if I may, when I talked to Susan about these numbers, she said they have more young men now than they do male mentors. So you're right on. We need more, and especially men. So
You heard him, folks.
thank you.
And so from what those two said, yeah, I totally agree with you. And maybe we can figure something out there. I mean, to get more people, and we'll have to think about that. So I want to thank the community for giving me the opportunity to serve the Fremont City Schools. I was very excited, and I'm really excited to work with all you guys. I greatly appreciate being here. And is school board month?
Yeah, School Board Appreciation Month.
So I think that you should be included in that.
Okay.
And you, Megan.
Sure.
And I believe Mrs. Hurd over here. I think it takes more than,
Yeah, thank you.
you
Sure.
guys do a lot.
Yeah.
You really do. Huh?
Gina.
Gina, yeah.
Gina.
And I haven't met you yet, but yes, I'm sure there's a lot of people involved. Again, I'm a newbie. I'm just learning all this. So I'll probably have a new outlook in about 6 months. But yeah, I'm not quite sure who's all in the middle of this, but I'll figure it out quick. But yeah, thank you, because I know you guys put in a lot of time and hard work and do your homework, and it's greatly appreciated. And I want to, of course, thank everybody for the donations, the volunteering. That's always appreciated. But I do want to say something, and I told the kids I was going to tell them this. The Vanguard kids, over the it wasn't over the holidays, it was before the holidays, they went around to the local nursing homes, and they've done this for several years. And these kids, they take shoe boxes, and they wrap the shoe boxes in wrapping paper, but they do it so the residents can just easily open it up. But they take their money and they go, I don't know where they shop, wherever they choose to, and they fill these boxes up with different gifts for the residents. And so, their instructor always gets a hold of me, or, not just us, it's other local nursing homes, and they schedule a day, and they come in and they pile these boxes yay high on these flatbeds, and we roll them through the hallways. And these kids just really find joy in it. They sing songs to them. It's just really, really nice, and they take time. And some of those kids come out of their rooms with their heart just, tugged at, because they have tears. And I think it just means so much to them because they're in a different element, and something that they're not normally in. And I think it's throwing them, how do I say this? I don't know. I think it's pulling on them to know that there's good things out there that you can do for people. And I think it's so good that the students come and do that. That's why I wish every kid could experience it. And it means so much to the residents too. I know I see it from that point, but from the side of the kids, it's just something good for them to do. It affects them really good. And I always encourage them, hey, there's always room in this community that you can come help older people too. There's different ways. They need mentors, but they can also be mentors to the next group, because life is a cycle. Life is a cycle. Believe that, because once you get to the other end of it, you're wanting to go back to the beginning. So it's crazy. It's crazy how it works. But I told the Vanguard kids, I can't wait till I can come see your school. I said, you're in our building, and soon I'll be in your building. I said, and I want to recognize you guys too for just taking your time and doing that, and how much it means to the residents, and how much it should mean to them. And I know that it does. So thank you, Vanguard students.
Okay. Well, I just want to thank the volunteers for taking the time and the mentors. Great that you can do that with the students, and it's nice that people are willing to help and step up. And all the donations, and I know we were talking about resignations, but Jim Sleek, it says he was retiring, so congratulations to him on his retirement. And welcome to Don, Sarah, welcome back,
Thank you.
and Laura. Happy to see you guys here and glad to, excited to work with you. Glad that I don't have to go first in communications anymore. And that's it.
Thank you.
To piggyback on Mr. Sleek, so is he resigning as a bus driver also?
Yes, I think this is it.
It's everything.
So,
Mr. Sleek, thank you for the years that you have helped out, and I know a lot of people have had you as a bus driver and as an aide in the classrooms and everything else, and everybody likes Mr. Sleek. So, congratulations on your retirement. Have fun. I know you'll probably still be out playing in the band somewhere, so that won't stop. So, thank you to the mentors, the volunteers, everyone that helps out the school district on a daily basis. There's always somebody doing something somewhere. Just shows the support of our community. So, the last thing I guess for me is just with the new board members on. It's a testament to our community. I think this is starting my 8th year on the board, and I appreciate that every year that I've been on the board, anybody who's sitting at this table is a respected person and they're level-headed, and everyone just works well together. Even if there's differences of opinions, there's been big things that have happened in those 7 years. But everybody can sit here and we can have a discussion, and that goes to show what our community is about. There isn't anything, you look at videos of school boards that have gone off the rails, and it's a circus in a board meeting. And we haven't ever had that. Even when we've had community members come in that are very passionate about a subject matter, whatever it is, we still give the respect to everyone else, even if they have a different opinion. So I just appreciate that. So it makes time on the board much easier when you have good people to work with that are in the same boat. So I appreciate that. So with that, Mr. Detweiler would like us to go into an executive session under item B as in boy.
yes, sir.
So we will be going into executive session quickly. There will be no board action after that. So we'll just adjourn once we're done with our executive session for the community to know. So let's see. So I'll make a motion to move into executive session under item B. Could I have a second?
Second.
Second by Miss Lewis. Roll call, please.
Mr. Price,
Yes.
Ms. Lewis,
Yes.
Mrs. Bloom,
Yes.
Ms. Lehman,
Yes.
Mr. Nally.
Yes.
Motion's approved. We are now in executive session.